We're going to take this 1,000 horsepower engine and disassemble it into all of these parts right now.
So first thing is pull off the fuel rail. So this is a custom fuel rail that holds 2,000 cc injectors. You need huge injectors if you're going to make 250 horsepower per cylinder. It's all custom stuff, and we have these custom little adapters that go into the head, and we'll get a little pick and then pull the adapter out and then the O-rings. But you always have to be careful not to scratch the bore there. If you scratch the bore, the O-ring won't seal very well. So this is just a little cover for the intake ports, and it stops anything from getting into the engine as it's being removed from the car. The valve cover is actually pretty cool. It's got like all stock stuff actually. This big spray bar, and it sprays oil down onto the cams and the valve springs. It keeps everything cool. Another little O-ring. And now you can see the custom ground cams, custom rocker arms, all the custom valve springs, titanium retainers. All this stuff is unique, even the rocker arms. So we'll pop out the spark plugs. And they look like they've been burning pretty well. And I always number them so I know where they came from. Next is the water pump. Break them loose a little bit, and they get a little 3/8 impact, and knock out those bolts. And always a little bit of water left in there, so we'll dump that out, set it aside, get that gasket too. Stock water pump actually on this. Another one of those covers, and now the dry sump oil pump. So this is an oil pump, so instead of using the internal pump, the stock one, we have an external. And because of the 9,000 RPM that we run, the stock oil pump can't keep up. So we run this external one and all this custom dry sump pan. And these lines, these big lines, all scavenge oil from the oil pan and run it into the pump and out to the external tank that sits inside the car. We also have like this box of they're just caps. So get the cap, put it over the AN fitting, and it stops the oil from leaking out anymore. And also it stops, dirt or whatever from getting in while the pump is sitting on the bench. Pop the rest of the pump out, set that aside, and then we've got some custom aluminum brackets that adapt that pump to our engine. Zip those out, and then time to get the pulley off. So the pulley bolt is on there 192 foot-pounds. So in order to get that, we have to hold the pulley some way, and we use that chain wrench. But if you ever get one of those, make sure you don't put the chain wrench on the serpentine area. There's like a flat section on this pulley where we can use it. Now we get the oil pump gear drive off, and the pulley doesn't just pull off. So we have this little puller, a couple of screws that go in, and then that center bolt pushes on. I put a stock pulley bolt back in, and then it pushes on that stock pulley bolt. We have to leave a little bit of a gap, and see that little gap I make? And then when you push on the center bolt, it's able to pull the pulley off. Set the sucker aside, and now we pull the cam position sensor off, and then all of the timing cover. So all these timing cover bolts, once they come off, this timing cover is actually sealed with a bunch of silicone, and it doesn't want to come off that easy. We have a little power steering bracket. Pop that sucker off. So the silicone is sticking now the whole timing cover on. So we'll get a pry bar and try to find somewhere flat that we don't mess up the aluminum or anything. Get that started, and then the rest of the way it comes off. A little bit of oil still leaking. Now you can see the whole timing drive area. So the one on the left, the letter C up in the top, that's variable cam. And then the one on the right is a custom cam gear that we make. And then it's all chain driven. And I even see the crank trigger wheel inside there. We'll pull the automatic tensioner off and all the timing guides. And then we can pull the timing chain off and set that aside. All the stuff will be inspected before we put it back together. It's actually really good. That's actually a lot of stock parts there. The stock Toyota chain and tensioner stuff is real good. So I'll break loose all of the cam cap. It's like this whole top assembly is pretty nice design, factory Toyota. And then zip it all out. And the cams and this whole like girdle piece come off together. We'll set that aside on a clean area. So you can see the cams, the cam gears, and how this whole assembly works. It's a great design. It's very rigid. And stock, this is a big weak area, is the rocker arms, but all this custom stuff actually works really well now. You can see the titanium retainer and the dual valve springs. Before we pull this off, number all of the rocker arms where they came from, and then quick little inspection, and then set them on the table over there. So the way this works is there's a little roller, and the cam pushes on that roller, and then it pushes down on the valve. That's how the valve opens. These are little solid lifters. Stock, the car has hydraulic, but we install these solid lifters with these little shims. So that's how you do the valve adjustment, are these little shims. These are a pain in the rear to assemble these engines because of all these little shims and all this specialty components. But that's why it's kind of fun watching one of these things being disassembled, because you can get to see all the inside parts that you normally don't have in a street engine. So pull all the shims out in order so we know where they came from. Now we'll go to the exhaust side. This is a super custom rocker arm setup. So instead of like that rocker arm just sitting on there like the intake side, we designed this so there's a shaft, so the rocker arm can't fall off or go anywhere. So this is all custom rocker arm stuff. We'll loosen 2 little bolts that hold them in to the stands, and then we'll pull it out as a whole assembly. And the whole assembly has a couple shims under it, and then that's how we do the valve adjustment. Again, little magnet, get those shims out, set them aside, and keep them all in order. So stock, this is a 6,200 RPM engine, and anything close to 7,000, they have a lot of issues with valve float and rocker arms falling off and stuff. But now we can run 9,000 no problem with all these modifications. So this is the head studs. They're actually upsized to 1/2 inch diameter. It's a lot larger than stock, and they take 150 foot-pounds of torque. So I'll loosen them all in a 1/4 turn, just so we don't get one loose all the way and the other ones are all tight. So we'll do 1/4 turn, get them a little bit more loose, and then zip them all out. And I'll get my trusty magnet, get all the washers. And then once I get all the washers and all the stuff, I'd like to set them all aside and make sure they're all accounted for before moving to the next step. It's always pain if you pull the head off and set it aside, and then bolts and stuff fall out of it. Try to account for everything before moving to the next step. So now we're looking in the bore. This is pretty normal. We don't use coolant in the racing engines. It's just water, so they will have a little bit of like corrosion, a little bit of rust, but that's really normal. You can see how where the head gasket sealing area is. This one is sealing pretty well, but this is always a weak link in these engines, the head gasket, and they'll usually blow right between the 2 cylinders. So in order to turn the engine now, I'll put a stock pulley bolt on there, and then just turn it, make sure everything looks okay, and move to the next step, which is a little bit more inspection. You can see, this thing has 4 weekends on it, at least, of drift racing. So it's got a bit of use, and you see a little bit of rust in the cylinders there. That's because we run an ethanol fuel. And then after a weekend, when you park the thing in the trailer, it sits for weeks at a time, and it'll actually add a little bit of rust. It doesn't hurt the performance, really, but it just doesn't look very good either. So now this is part of the oil pan. This is like a big scavenge rail. So we'll zip all those bolts out and then set it aside, and then we can access the bolts to pull the rest of the oil pan out. So this is one really long bolt that goes in, and the rest of them are like Allen socket style. Not this one. This one's like really hard to get to, so you have to use a wrench. We got to remember to do that first. So again, this is all custom. So this is a custom billet oil pan, and this is machined out of a giant block of aluminum, and it's custom for this Toyota engine. No one else really runs it except for us. And again, held in with the silicone. So my trusty buddy Sean came over and held it while I pried it off. A little bit of oil left in there, but you can see how it's built inside. It's pretty trick. There's 4 different scavenge areas, so it pulls oil from 4 separate sections to always keep the minimum amount of oil in the pan. That helps with reducing the amount of oil on the crankshaft spinning around, and helps with horsepower and keeps the oil temps down. That's the rear main seal. Before I move to the next step, I'll turn it and just sort of feel all of the rods and make sure there's no obvious issues before pulling it apart. Okay, so before pulling out the pistons, I'm going to clean this little carbon ridge along the top area of the bore, because when we push the piston out, we don't want that top ring to hit that carbon and then mess up the ring or make something really dirty. So we'll clean that up. So I'll loosen the 2 rod bolts, and I don't go all the way loose. I'll actually leave them threaded in there a little bit, so when I hit the end of the ratchet, it can push the rod out, but you're not messing any of the threads up. So next step is pull the bolts all the way out, and you got to be careful because that bearing usually tries to fall out. So be kind of careful. And there's the bearing. Actually looks really good for how many weekends it has, how many miles. And now we'll just sort of push the piston down a little bit, and the rings are holding it from falling out right now. But once you get the rod pushed down a little bit more, it's going to want to fall all the way down. So you want to have a second, one hand pushing it down and the other hand making sure that you can catch it. So there we go. Forged JE piston, runs a Corolla rod. This is all super custom and super buff for the horsepower that we make. And the little marks and stuff that you see on the side of the piston, that's all really normal wear. And that's pretty normal bearing well as well for the horsepower that we run. So we'll probably replace the bearings in it, even though they don't look so bad. But once you have it apart, you just replace these relatively inexpensive parts. So now we'll go and pull the other 3 pistons and rods out, set those aside. And the cool thing about this engine is, basically everything in the bottom of this engine has been replaced with a racing part. So this is a full billet crankshaft from Sonny Bryant. It's actually 7 pounds heavier than the stock one because we need it to be so much stronger than the stock crankshaft. We actually end up adding a lot of extra material to it. So again, quarter turn, loosen all of the main cap bolts, and then zip them all out, and then trusty magnet and get all the washers. Again, go back and account for them, make sure all 10 of them are there. And then I'm prying it from the little pry spots you can see on the side of the main cap. This is a billet main cap, so these are actually not the stock ones. The stock ones will break. So these are main caps that we machine out of a solid block of steel. And again, the coated bearings. These are actually a stock Toyota bearing. It's a really good bearing and great wear. And no problem with wear here, and the crankshaft spun very well. So next step is pull the crankshaft out. You got to be careful. Once you get the crankshaft up a little bit, the bearings tend to want to stick to all the journals. So if you don't have the problem where when you pull the crankshaft down, the bearings fall all over the place, I'll lift the crank up a little bit, and then you see with my finger, I'll push the bearings kind of back down again, and then bring the crank over to the table. So now these are the 5 main bearings. And then you can see the thrust bearing right there. I think one of the thrusts actually fell into the pan. So that's why you want to have something soft at the bottom also. So if something falls, it doesn't get damaged. So we'll pull all the bearings out. These actually look really good. And set them up on the table, and I'll mark them from 1. And number 1 is always on the pulley side, like where the crank pulley is. The transmission would be the end of the engine. So I'll put 1, and then B is for block. So I'll mark all 5 of the bearings, set them aside, and then do the same thing with the main bearings. The main caps are all marked, so I'll now mark all of the bearings 1 through 5, set those aside, and we pretty much got it at that point. So if you made it this far, congratulations, you might actually be into engines. So I'll leave some links in the bottom for some of the tools I used that are kind of hard to find, and then also some links on if you want to see the car actually in competition, what this engine lives in. Thanks for watching.